Governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, making his second campaign stop in Erie today. And Philip Ward, you had a chance to speak to him.
Yeah, I sure did, Mike. So the governor spoke in front of about 15 people at Vilma's Kitchen, and then afterwards we discussed the economy, undecided voters, and what the final messages will be as we enter the final stretch. It's an interview you'll only see here on Erie News Now. Governor, talk to me a little bit about being here in Erie County, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, second trip back here. It's really exciting. We know that, look, this race is going to be close. We believe up here in Erie that we can win this thing. Meeting with undecided voters here at a local business, Puerto Rican-owned business, and we know where the difference lies there. But more importantly, talking about that middle-class economy and bringing prices down, protecting health care. Feels really good here. We're going to have knocked 1 million doors here by the end of the week, and that's going to matter.
Governor, I interviewed your wife, and she talked about education being high for Vice President Harris and you as well. Where is it in your list of priorities, sir, if we elect you to the White House?
Well, it's foundational. You know, we're talking about bringing down prices. The economy is always on people's minds, access to health care and things. But look, education is our future, our children, making sure we're investing in it. Big contrast, Donald Trump talking about getting rid of the Department of Education, unfunding your local schools. We're talking about reinvesting in those pathways to apprenticeship programs, opportunities for early childhood education, making sure we're hiring more teachers and more counselors in those schools, and then talking about this issue in education about reducing gun violence around our schools. So it's a high priority.
Governor, poll after poll indicates that the economy is the highest thing right now on voters' mind. We know about the $25,000 for first-time home buyers. What else is it that Vice President Harris and yourself are going to bring to help the economy, sir?
Yeah, child tax credit. We're targeting tax cuts. About 100 million Americans will see a tax cut under this. Now, no one making $400,000 or less will pay any more. And then making sure that, as we said, the home ownership piece of it, protecting health care and health care costs, making sure you hear that down payment piece, but also on grocery prices. You were talking to some folks, I was just talking to a farmer. They're not making any more for their products. Somebody in the middle's making money, and we're seeing corporate profits soar, taking on this price gouging issue. 37 states already have it. If we had a federal hit on that, we also saw economic numbers come out today with inflation has cooled once again. Gas prices are starting to drop, and we're making progress on it. But we understand those household budgets are a top priority. Focusing on that whole group of things, as well as making sure wages are rising, makes a difference.
Governor, we always hear that people are made up their mind. They're either Republican, they're either Democrat, but there's a real sliver of Americans in there that are still undecided, those independent voters. How do you reach and how do you get them on your side?
Yeah, and I think there's more people that maybe thought they made up their mind, but stuff happens in the last week. We saw these comments out of Madison Square Garden that I think really shakes people. We saw comments about women where Donald Trump said he'll be their protector whether they like it or not. Those are things that really shake people. But I think those folks, I just met with 4 of them, they're doing their work. They're doing their research. They're listening. And I think the way you get to them is we've laid out a real plan. We have a plan to address this. And as the Vice President said the other night as she spoke on the National Mall, she's got a to-do list when she goes to the White House. Donald Trump has a grievance list and an enemies list. So I think there's a lot of people still in flux. I think those folks in the middle are going to see, look, we don't want the chaos that we saw under Donald Trump. We'd rather see the steady leadership that Kamala Harris exhibits.
Governor, what about some of those detractors who say, well, if things were going to be fixed, Vice President Harris would have done it. She's been in the administration for 4 years. How do you get those people to vote for the ticket?
Yeah, she's her own leader. She's laid out a very clear and different plan. I would give the example of Medicare and making sure Medicare is more robust, allowing people to be treated in their home. And she laid out, as somebody who's a rural guy, she laid out a really great rural plan that focuses on rural hospitals, rural access to capital for small businesses. And I think now she's going to get the opportunity to lead. I think many of us know vice presidents are there to help and serve. President Biden tackled some of our hardest problems. Donald Trump left us a mess after COVID, but there's more and new work to be done, and she's that leader for a new generation.
Governor, you mentioned there being a rural guy. Do you see similarities between life back in Minnesota and then as you visit Erie County, similarities between some of the voters here?
I do. I'm bragging. It's snowing already in Minnesota. You guys need to catch up with us. So we got a little on the ground. Yeah, I see a lot of similarities. I see a vibrant community, a place that cares deeply about itself, but also concerned about what the future is going to look like, making sure is manufacturing coming back here, our jobs getting to be invested here. And I just sat down with a farmer. Why he's talking about growing potatoes. We grow more corn and soybeans, but similar issues there. He wants to make sure that we're investing and we get a farm bill done. So a lot of similarities. I think that's my, the privilege of being on this ticket was to see. Vice President Harris says it too. We have far more in common as Americans than we have differences. Donald Trump has tried now for almost 10 years to show how divided we are and how different we are. Vice President Harris and I reject that. She wants to be president for all Americans, and I'm seeing that.
As we enter the final stretch here now, what is your closing message to voters here in Erie County, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, let's turn the page on this division. Let's elect a President Kamala Harris that's united for all of us. Let's work together. She's pledged to work across party lines, and let's start working for the betterment. America's always been able to find a new way forward, a place where everybody belongs. Let's do it.